Hello, I am Holly Mandel.
And I am Sarah Hicks. Hello.
Hi. We both work at iMERGENCE, which is a corporate training company that uses a special magic feature, which is
Improv. I was gonna say we work at a company. You started the company.
I did.
It's your.
I'm not going to pretend I didn't.
Don't pretend. The
Yeah,
people.
I did. I started this company, friends, in 2011, started experimenting before that, how to bring improv from the theater, because I was a teacher, Sarah's been a teacher of people who study improv to perform. And yet we found a lot of people that were taking our classes really wanted to get better at certain skills, right? Wouldn't you say that was like coming to your classes?
Yeah, like when I first started teaching, I thought that everybody was like, I want to be on SNL. And it wasn't. It was especially in New York, it's so many people that are like, I just got a promotion and they want me to present, or I gotta run a team now and I don't know how to do it, or like people that are like, I'm a writer and I just don't have, I have a creative block going on and I can't fix it.
All of the above,
Yeah.
exactly. And so we thought it was very interesting because the same transformation would be happening with those people as were actors. And so we thought, oh, it doesn't really matter why you use improv, the results are what is extraordinary. And what if we designed a company that gave improv to people who normally would never want to take it? How do you translate it for the corporate world? And because I've worked in corporate for a long time, I was in advertising for a while, on-air promotions. I loved it. I loved learning about the corporate world, but I saw that I had a skill set that other people did not. And it really helped me do what I do and did what I did. And so I thought, let's see if it works. And here we are many years later. I can't do the math, but what is that, 14?
We're not experts in math.
No,
Between 10 and 50 years
that we've been here
of
and
experience.
you could quote us.
Yeah, write that down. Yeah, and then I started taking improv class because I was looking for a way to not be like panic attacked in auditions. I'm from a musical theater background, I'm a dancer. And then I kind of came to one of Holly's classes and I was like, oh my God, this is life changing. It's helped me get out of this hole in my brain thing. And now then I started teaching. I get really interested, just because of my dance background. I get super interested in like the body language behind everything too. So, yeah, and here we are. And we're here because I'm addicted to podcasts.
She's
And
not, she's not.
and I just listened to one of the latest Mel Robbins podcasts, and she had this woman on who wrote this book that I'm going to read. I haven't read the book yet. But she was interviewed and she's so cool. She's Dr. Alison Wood Brooks, and she teaches at Harvard Business School.
We were impressed that they like sought her out to teach. And
Yeah,
then she's like, you guys need more classes than this.
yeah,
She was interested in a kind of a different approach, right, to business than normal, or negotiating or leadership. I guess Harvard Business School is really well known for creating the leaders and the CEOs of the future.
yeah. And I think what really struck me when I first started listening to it was that she comes at it from this whole point of like, we always think when we think like head honcho business person, amazing negotiator, somebody who knows what they want in the business world, we think of like, I think of like a cartoon character of like this big white man that's like, cigar, cigar, cigar. I know what I want. And she's basically here to say, no, no, no. Communication and connection is what makes you amazing and thrive at business, which made me go ding, ding, ding. Communication and connection is the thing that makes you thrive as an improviser.
Yes. And then I got a text with lots of emojis. That always makes me go, ah, Sarah's listened to a podcast. Thanks.
Sarah's on coffee. Listen to a podcast.
That's right. So that's why we're doing this. We thought it would be really cool to have a conversation about how we implement improv, the changes that we see. Sarah and I have sort of different emphases, or we come at it for different reasons with different backgrounds, I guess you could say. So like Sarah was saying, there's body language and a presence, almost like executive presence, I feel, learning how to stay calm and things like that. You are so good at the, anxiety and all of that stuff. And I really love, like, how do cultures evolve, and how do people tap into a different brain wave, and how do you actually how can you be in charge of your own emotional and mental state? And so we overlap a lot, but we also have these separate interests, so it's very cool. So we thought, let's just do one of these things, see what happens.
The first thing that I wrote down was kind of the thing that we were talking about of, she says, you imagine the best negotiators are big, gruff dudes, basically. But research is showing that the best negotiators are communicators, developing meaningful relationships. And then she has this whole cool thing about understanding, figure out what the people that you are talking to need and deliver what they need, which I thought was a really cool way of looking at it. I think she was basically talking about, like, when you're in negotiations, make sure it's more important that you understand what the person that you're talking to needs. And then how can you deliver those needs?
Mhm.
And the reason that got me when I was drinking coffee in the morning, listening to my podcast, was I was like, oh my God, level 1 improv class. It's kind of the first thing that you learn is we have to figure out how we're going to work with each other and how best we can get something out for the other person.
Yeah. Yeah, when we go into either a company or teach in an improv school, one of the first things that we have to do is sort of make this distinction between where you put your attention and what you're focused on. And especially when you're nervous or you're under pressure, we are wired for the world to get very small, and we tend to care about ourselves. So what you just said, and what I got from her podcast, which I am assuming is in the book, is that it's about, what do you actually care about? What are you putting your attention on? And so in improv sessions, we work on, it doesn't exclude you, it just expands. And it says you can care about yourself, but you could also care about all these other people, and also what all these other people want. And it does a lot of things, including relax you and make you realize that you've been focusing maybe on the wrong thing. The thing that brings you anxiety is self-consciousness. Your consciousness is on yourself. And so improv is the act of expanding your care so that you realize you're part of a team and you are there to take care of your team.
Yeah, I feel like there is always that analogy of when you get panicked, the spotlight, if you imagine there's a spotlight, the spotlight goes on you.
Mm.
And then, of course, like everybody's, ah. But
Mm.
if you can take the spotlight, all you have to do is shift and let the spotlight be everywhere else. And then that's when you get that curiosity
Oh, I love that.
from other people are like, okay, ooh, what do they need? And I feel like when that happens, that part of your brain goes out that you are so great at talking about, and you go, when I'm curious, I don't think you can be curious and be panicked at the same time. Like, I think that they're kind of two different fields.
I love that. And I think many times in the interview with Mel Robbins and Professor Brooks, was the word curiosity came up quite a bit. And I remember thinking, this is so exciting, because curiosity, the way that Dr. Brooks described it, was, you go into an interview, and how often do you actually feel curious? You feel like you have to defend yourself or push, like you have your case, you've made a case for why you should get more money. But do you go in curious about, like, do you even have the money to give me more money? Or do you have 10 of me? Or am I the only one that can actually do this? Curiosity is so important for having conversations that seem to be meaningful for the person that you're talking to. And improv activates curiosity. There are like these two different, we often talk about it in our workshops. There's, probably gradations, but you can really highlight two places that the brain can operate from. And one is a much lower energy, has lower bandwidth, it sees less, it cares about less. It's just designed to survive and get through the moment. And that's often when the spotlight's turned on ourselves because we have to get through this moment. And we can get triggered by dinosaurs or dragons, but we can also get triggered by, hey, could you come into my office for 5 minutes? Yeah. And so the upper mind is the mind where all these amazing things happen. We are, we have access to our language. We have access to memory. We have the ability to think abstractly. That's where our emotional intelligence is like juiced up and jazzed up. But it's also where curiosity lives. And so just like you said, Sarah, you can't be curious when you're freaked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I love putting those two things together because then the opposite also is true, which is like how you kind of redirect yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Very cool. Yeah, I loved all that stuff. What I got from the beginning too, they were talking about influential leaders and that people go to places like Harvard Business School to learn how to be a fantastic leader. And they learn all these things and they learn about finance, they learn about analyzing data. And that's for sure what I think business school would be, which is why I did not go. And that then they start interviewing, right? All the
Yeah.
people that were actually fantastic leaders.
Uh-huh. No, you
Sarah,
keep going because I'm gonna find, I think, that quote.
yeah. Okay, you have the quote. I just kind of paraphrased. I'm good at working with people around me. I'm good at figuring out what people need, what clients need, and their superpower is their ability to have conversations. Is that the part you were talking about too?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
that quote? Do you have it
Yeah,
written?
it was something about, she said there are people that everyone likes working with because, she was talking about leaders, because they're enjoyable to be around and they bring value to the table.
Hmm.
And it all circles around them having great communication skills. Because in lots of other things that we've studied, you can have a lot of these great characteristics, but if you can't communicate them and people can't see them and hear them, then they're for naught. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So it's so having that communication is the way that you can show and that people can understand that you have these great qualities.
I think that's really important. And it seemed like Mel got stoked about it too, that,
Mhm.
maybe it's more women than men or just certain personality types or both. It's hard to say, but there's always that person who is doing great work, but feels like it's arrogant or braggadocious to talk about it. But when you're talking about the fact that your company needs to know the value that you're adding in order for them to understand your value, just learning how to say it in a way that feels authentic and not feel gross feels very important. And so these basic communication skills, I can understand why her classes at Harvard are so popular, is because it's not the kind of thing that you tend to learn. I mean, I went through college, I went to UCLA, go Bruins, and I don't remember there being lots of discussion about how you do the things you do. You learn the data, but it's like, how do you show up as these things? How do you process all the data that you've analyzed and studied and understood? Great, good for you, but it's in how you're able to deliver that to your team and inspire your teams and get your teams to work together that actually makes all of that data work.
Yeah. I was at my kind of overall, after I listened to it twice, I was like, oh my God, it's filled with so much great information and all of this stuff about communication and connection and being able to tell people what you do and just so people can value you. And then that is the way that you move up and that is the way that you get hired and that is the way that teams work together better. But at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, this is also great. There've got to be so many people out there that are like, amazing. What a nightmare that this is so important because communication is the thing that I'm the worst at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Connecting with people is the hardest thing for me to do. I can't do it quickly. I see other people doing it all the time. I see people having these great conversations and advocating for themselves. And now this woman is telling me that the most important thing that you have to do is be able to do this well.
Yeah. I mean, do
So
you
that's
see,
where-
yeah, do you see, Sarah, when you run your workshops? Because often Sarah will lead a workshop or I will lead a workshop. We don't often are in the same room. So like when you're leading a workshop, which is basically getting a team together of about what, like 14,
Yeah.
16,
14, 16.
yeah, it feels like a classroom style of workshop that we run. Do you feel like, what percentage do you feel you're noticing lately of people, maybe even especially young people, that have this struggle at the beginning of the workshop at least?
I'm going to say about, I would say about half of them are struggling with communication. And then there's usually one or two that are really, really struggling. Oh, thumbs down, really, really struggling. And like cannot get past one improv game without panicking. Then, of course, as we get through it, I see, because we're very sneaky about making lessons so that everybody will be able to do it, and then they'll be able to see that they can actually communicate.
Yeah.
But there are, at least in every session, there's like one or two people that really I can see are struggling. What
Yeah.
about you?
Same. I think it's same. I was gonna say a third to a half, but there's always, I was gonna say three. There's always three people that you can tell that the group has already sort of pigeonholed as
Yes,
being the quiet ones, right? And they
yes.
never really go to them for information. You can just feel, oh, this person's just always at the table at the meeting, but they don't speak up. And then if they're called on, they speak as shortly as they can. And
Hmm.
you understand why you would never assume they're bringing value. Like maybe they're not messing up,
Right.
but they're not the person who you would assume, but maybe they are, maybe they're crushing it. And so I do think it's interesting to not assume that that kind of braggadocious person is actually the one delivering all the time. But I understand, unless you're speaking up for yourself, how you would as a employer. I mean, I was even thinking the fact that I'm the CEO, president. You be both?
Ooh,
CEO? I'm
sure.
president. Yeah, I'm all the things, empress of the company.
Yep.
Yep. And Sarah is the amazing director of sales and events.
Hmm.
And there's two other members of our team, Liz and Lila. And so I know I was thinking about the four of us actually talking about this book at some point.
I was thinking, yeah.
Were you?
Hmm. Hmm.
What were you thinking?
When we're talking about our job descriptions, it's like, how can we add value? What I liked in this a lot was, how can I add value so that we can succeed?
Yes.
Not how can one add value? How can I add value so that I can make more money?
Yeah,
But I don't think even like a lot of people, the value isn't there. It's like, how can I make more money?
for
Give
sure.
me money.
For
Um,
sure.
and I think it's like understanding what the leader needs. And what Mel said as somebody who hires, she's like, if you can do something that is going to make my life better, that's invaluable. I would pay buckets of money for that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to be able to communicate to me that that is something that you can do.
Yeah. Exactly.
As you can tell, we could talk about this all day. We love talking about improv. We love what we do. We kind of have the best jobs in the world. So if you have any questions about what we do and about how we can help your company, or if you have like questions in general about what improv is like and any of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
we're here. We'd love, maybe that'll be our next episode.